The new Space-Time Showdown boosters have dropped for Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, and to say the meta is in flux might be an understatement. People are not only experimenting with some of the brand new cards and decks, but also figuring out which items and Pokemon should be worked into existing high-level decks. I want to talk about some of my favorite cards and some I see perhaps impacting the meta and the competitive scene in today's video. So let's start off by first talking about some of the new trainer cards. We've got new items, we've got new supporters, and we've got an entire new class of trainer card, the Pokemon Tool. And what I like about the additions here is that these cards are not only going to figure in to some of the new decks we've seen emerging, but we're going to have to make replacements, or we'll have the option at least to make replacements in current meta decks, which is what I'm going to test out in just a second. Let's first talk about the Pokemon Tools, because as I mentioned, this is an entirely new class of card. So Pokemon Tools essentially provide permanent buffs to your Pokemon, which last generally throughout the battle. I say generally because there are some situations where you can lose the buff. For example, certain attacks will remove a Pokemon tool, and if you replace one tool with another, the first effects disappear. Right now there are 3 tools: the Giant Cape, the Rocky Helmet, and the Lumberry. The Lumberry, I think, is a little too niche to be useful. It essentially just heals status effects, so I'm not going to talk about that right now. But Giant Cape and Rocky Helmet I would expect to see quite prominently in a bunch of decks. So Giant Cape, for example, is essentially a better potion card. Potion heals your Pokemon for 20 damage. Giant Cape adds 20 to your Pokemon's max HP. In a way, it's like a heal, but it also gives you that permanent buff if you're at full health. What's nice about Pokemon Tools is that there's also several Pokemon which gain other benefits when they have a tool attached. For example, Skarmory gains plus, I think it's 30 attack when he's got a tool added to him, so really worth considering. It's not just a few cards as well, it's a bunch. Rocky Helmet, we talked about yesterday. It essentially gives Druddigon's ability to every Pokemon, the Rough Skin ability. So if you're attacked and you're wearing Rocky Helmet, or your Pokemon rather is wearing Rocky Helmet, they will do 20 damage back to the attacker. Now, maybe we'll see this work with wall cards. You could add this to Druddigon and do 40 damage back to your opponent who attacks you, but I think just generally we're also going to see this card quite prominently in chip decks. For example, Blaine, 20 damage could be the difference between winning and losing, so Rocky Helmet could make a great addition to that deck. Alright, next up we have Pokemon Communication. This is an item I'm actually pretty excited about, but I haven't seen really any discussion about. Pokemon Communication is essentially a deck/hand management card. What you do is you take a Pokemon from your hand, you put it back to your deck, and you draw another random card. This is the best for situations where you need to either evolve quickly or you really just aren't getting the card you need. I mean, I've been in the situation playing the Charizard deck, playing Mewtwo Gardevoir, where, say, I've got every evolution of a specific card, but maybe not the first stage. Well, this helps with that, and we'll hopefully get some good luck and see this in action in our live test in just a minute. Probably the card getting the most attention is Cyrus. I'll admit I haven't tested this one out as much, but Cyrus is essentially a targeted Sabrina, so instead of you replacing your your opponent's active Pokemon with a benched Pokemon of their choosing, you switch the active with a benched Pokemon which is damaged. Again, I don't have too many decks other than, I guess, Gyarados, where I'm doing a ton of deck damage, but interesting in that way. Otherwise, Dawn is kind of neat. It's almost like Vaporeon's active ability, where you can shuffle energy to your active Pokemon. The thing about Dawn is you're limited to 1 energy, so I'm not sure if there's going to be a ton of utility there, but it does provide a bit of flexibility in a deck which is retreating a ton. Alright, so these are my changes to the typical Mewtwo Gardevoir deck. I've added the new Kirlia just because it does have 1 less energy for its attack. Generally, you don't want to feed too much energy into the Gardevoir line. It's really a support card. So I just think that makes sense. Then instead of a potion, I went ahead and added Giant Cape just because, in my opinion, it does everything a potion does with a little more flexibility. Then I added Pokemon Communication just to help in situations where maybe you've got an extra Mewtwo that you're not planning to power up, but you want to get Gardevoir or you want to get one of the other cards. I just think it's a bit of flexibility, and so far in my testing, especially when combined with Mythical Slab, it's kind of nice. So let's go ahead and jump right into a battle. Unfortunately, there are no events or anything right now, but we'll go ahead and play a versus trading card game battle. And we won't use meta ? We will use Mewtwo Magic. You gotta love a battle. Okay. Apparently I did not properly terminate a battle. It's one of the new card effects in the game. I also do want to talk about something. We got some feedback about titles, and generally them being too negative, and I completely agree. Part of the issue is that there are two of us working on this channel. Well, really more than two of us, but Charlie and I are really making most of the videos. So I 100% hear what you guys are saying about titles. They were being too negative. The content, I think, was really good, but yeah. I hear and appreciate what you guys have said, so I will make an effort on my end to make the titles better. But I will perhaps make a video about how slow people are in playing this game. I will say, I've been thinking too with all of the new cards and just how many interesting options there are for decks. I really would like to see an expanded game mode. I know that part of the charm and the appeal of this game is it's like TCG, but TCG Live, but quicker and gamified a little bit more, and I like that. But I do still think there could be maybe another in between, maybe a 40 card or a 30 card 4.5 point game. So with that being said, let's see if we can try out some of our new cards. Right now we've got the Cape already. Okay, it's fine. We kind of just screwed ourselves by dropping Presser Oak to the bottom there, but it is what it is. So I'm actually going to keep this Mew just in case I do get that new item, because I wouldn't mind potentially getting Gardevoir going sooner rather than later. I'll admit, I'm not sure how I feel about this Yanmega. It's getting a lot of talk, but for 120, I don't know. 3 energy for 120 is not awful, but it's not great either, in my opinion. The nice thing about Yanmega is it pairs really well with... I'm so bad at this generation. I didn't play the games most of these Pokemons are from. Diagla, I believe his name is. Because he's got almost a Moltres-like effect where he can feed energy to the bench. The difference is that, unlike Moltres, he can feed steel energy to any Pokemon, which really makes, which I think really makes normal types pretty interesting, or Pokemon with normal type attacks at least. So let's just go ahead and throw a Giant Cape on Mewtwo, because why not? I can see Mewtwo wearing a cape for sure. And that does give us a little more breathing room. But honestly, we've got a powerful deck. This is still a very high level meta deck, so this right now is where the new targeted Sabrina, I can't remember the trainer card, the new targeted Sabrina would be great because we could pull Yanmega specifically back into battle. But either way, we survive that flap when we're back to our base HP. Toss Gardevoir on. Do I want to target execute? No, we'll just keep her going. I mean, this battle's going very nicely for us, so I could have just used... I really didn't need to waste those 2 psychic energies, but whatever. I think we're okay. So this is a situation where it looks like our cape is actually helping us out because... Okay. I thought he was going to switch to Yon Mega, but still, nice to have the extra 20 HP. Ugh. So not that much help. Not really any use for the communicator right now. I'm just trying to think if I want to Sabrina anyone. I mean, if I Sabrina, he's just going to bring out the other Executor. So I don't really think there's any huge benefit. I wish I would have just used Psychic Sphere last time. Actually, I am going to... I'm going to do it on Ralts, just so I can maybe get Mewtwo, the other Mewtwo. No. Okay. That's fine. Either way, if he's just going to attack us, we'll be able to finish him off with. But he's probably going to switch out if he's got a leaf. Let's see. Yeah, he does. So we're in a bit of a tough spot right now. He's going to kill us here. If he's got a Giovanni, we're going to lose this. If he doesn't, we should win. We'll see. Yeah, and this is where using that, I should have just used the 50, whatever, Psy Shot or whatever the lower damage attack is. I should have just used that, and I would have been an easier win here. Well, it's fine. Hopefully, the question is, do I want to Sabrina him? No, because I won't be able to kill the Executor, so let's just hope he doesn't have a Giovanni. I'm guessing by the fact that he hasn't quit yet that he does, unfortunately. Okay. Well, we're going to win this then. Because we can Sabrina, and whichever one he sends out, it'll be game over. So ultimately, I wouldn't say the new cards made a ton of a difference for this battle, but it was still, you know, they were still nice additions. Okay, so that's a victory. I will also take a look at some of the other, like, again, we're in the heavy experimenting phase here in terms of not just Pokemon cards, but also the supporters themselves. Okay, let's quit that. Let's take a look at some of the other decks that we've got. So, like, Celebi Sweeps, I haven't actually changed this one yet, but where we've got several evolutions, plus we need to pull Celebi, I think it makes a ton of sense to throw a Pokemon Communicator, probably in for... I really wouldn't want to lose Erica, maybe in for a Sabrina. Ditto with... Ditto. But same thing with the Cape. I'd probably put Cape in for X speed. I find I don't really have that much problem retreating anyway in this deck. The one that I've been experimenting really heavily with is the new Pachirisu. Again, I don't know these new cards, but basically this is another one that's empowered when it has a Pokemon tool attached. Given the health, I usually like to put a Cape on it, so that right away for 2 energy can do 80 damage. We also see that Electabuzz's evolution, or actually, sorry, the new Electabuzz has the charge ability where you don't actually do damage, but you add an energy. Maybe that's a case for the new Energy Movement Trainer card. I'm not sure. I was really struggling against some of the new... Let me just go back to the rental decks. I was really struggling against... Sorry. Against this deck, the Galad deck. I find this card to be very strong. Obviously, this deck has a lot of nonsense in it, like Gligar I would not include. But what's really interesting is that Lucario does an extra. He gives plus 20 damage to any fighting attack used by any Pokemon, even if he's on the bench. And then I find Glad to be very, very powerful, especially because fighting is powerful against so many types. So Energized Blade, 70 plus 20 damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So, for example, if we're fighting Pikachu, we've got 70 plus 20 for the effectiveness bonus. That puts it up to 90. If the Pikachu has 2 energy, like it often does, that's 40 more, so we're up to 130. And then you add the 20 from Lucario, and that's 150. I think I was at 150. Either way, it's a lot. I might have messed the math up there, but it's a lot, especially if you add a Cape to Glad. You're at 190 HP with 1 retreat cost and all of that damage. That is nasty. Probably the most prominent new meta deck, however, is some form of... not this one. There's a Weevil deck that's really deadly that I think I'm actually going to cover in a dedicated video once I get the cards. But I do briefly also want to talk about Dialga. Again, out of my comfort zone here. So Metallic Turbo takes 2 Steel Energy or Metal Energy from your Energy Zone and attaches it to one of your benched Pokemon. So yes, obviously that works well with Metal type or Steel type, but the new Licky really has also caught my attention because Licking Fury is a pretty nasty attack. Again, a high HP Pokemon, 160. Licking Fury does need 4 energy, but you can get that going with Dialga. So it does sort of like a Misty where you get 100 damage and then an extra 40 damage for each head. Not really like Misty, more like an Eevee, but it's got that guaranteed 100 damage, which is nice, and a really high HP Pokemon. I threw together this deck just to test. Mew is another Pokemon which can benefit from the Steel Energy. Skarmory is nice, I mentioned that in the intro. 20 damage with a Pokemon tool, does 50. I really like putting Rocky Helmet on Skarmory just because it is a basic Pokemon, so very likely you'll be messing around with him in the early stages when 20 HP can matter a lot. So 50 damage for a basic Pokemon with 1 energy plus the helmet is pretty nasty. Or you use the cape and get it up to 100 HP. Obviously, though, there are many other cards which will do really well in this deck. Pidgeot, for example, the new Pidgeot, or really either of them. Scattering Cyclone becomes a lot easier to pull off with +2 energy, pretty readily available. The other one that I've seen a lot of is Yanma and Yanmega. Let's just take a look here. Air Slash, we saw that a little bit, 120 damage. That's pretty good and pretty easy to empower. So we're going to leave it at that. Sorry I get a little rambly at the end here. I was planning on doing some deck testing, but I think I will leave that for another video. We will end, however, with one more pull. We'll do it from the Dialga deck, or booster rather. Hopefully we get something good. I had 500 hourglasses. I haven't spent any money on this pack, but I've used all 500 of them. And I'd say I'm like medium happy with what I've pulled so far. But that's going to be it for me. See you guys next time.